Have you ever made a schedule and then failed to stick to it? Made a healthy eating plan and got derailed after a few days? Or even signed up for a gym and just didn't show up after a few weeks? Well, this is all fairly common. So today we're going to talk about why we fail. Hi, I'm Sandhya and welcome to Dynamic Living. Why we fail? So there are many reasons why this happens and many circumstances under which this happens, and many of them relate uniquely to you. Let's look at a few common ones here. The first question we need to ask ourselves is the why of our goals. Very often we believe we ought to be waking up at 5 a.m., we ought to be doing certain things, but the question is, do we really want to be doing them? Why should we wake up at 5 a.m. just because somebody said we should? If it makes sense to you, that's when you're most likely to do it. But there are certain circumstances under which there may not be a good enough why for you. Very often we find when we're working in the health space that even when people have received a very frightening health report and the doctor tells them you need to start working out or you need to quit smoking, people will still not do it. And why is that? That's because the kind of benefits that you see from that come so far into the future, it's not necessarily even foreseeable. Whereas the instant gratification that your current lifestyle, the smoking, the unhealthy eating, the late nights bring you is immediate pleasure. And very often, we're often too stressed that we can't see beyond that immediate pleasure. So for these kind of changes, where you still need to find your why, but you know that there is a good enough why, that's when you need to start a mindfulness practice. Learn to cut out stress from your life, learn to stay centered so that you have a pause before you indulge in that instant gratification, and know that there's a longer why in it for you, a more delayed pleasure that's more long lasting. The next reason that a lot of us fail is because of something called the rebound effect. Imagine that this is your habit line. Sometimes when you start off and you find that you have a very quick peak of success, say you've done like 10 HIIT workouts in a row and you're feeling amazing after that. What tends to happen is that you've gone so far out of your comfort zone, it will be followed by a very sharp downward rebound effect. You see this often with women who've had postpartum depression sometimes. They've had a high through their pregnancy and then it's followed by a low. Or a celebrity who's just tasted instant fame and then suddenly goes into depression. Now, I learned this from an organization called the NBA. I'll tell you more about that in the link here. But what needs to be done? It's about being aware of that and to take for yourself small challenges such that you can achieve them without any big dramatic highs and the big lows that could follow with it. That's sustainable gain. The next reason why we fail is that we get overwhelmed. There's so much that's already going on in our lives. We suffer from FOMO, all the things that we have to do, must do, want to do, and we don't realize that when we take on something new, something's got to give. We only have the same 24 hours that we'd already filled up with so many things. So now, if you believe that you want to work out for 1 hour in a day, something's got to change in order to make that 1 hour of space in your day. So it's all right to let a few things go. You may feel like a sort of separation anxiety, but in the long run, your gains are so much more fulfilling. The kind of pleasure you'll get out of it is so much more meaningful. The last reason we'll be talking about is the difference between your primary and your secondary motivations. Primary motivations are who you essentially are. What gives you pleasure in just doing the thing itself. And it could be something as simple as gardening or reading a book. Secondary motivations are the motivations that are put on you by your environment, by your society, by your parents. And often these are driven by reward and punishment. Now, the kind of joy that you'll get out of a secondary motivation, say I'm working because I'm going to get a raise or because I'm going to get a bonus, these tend to be a little bit more fleeting. But if they sort of align with your primary motivations, they could actually work in your favor as well. But be aware what's actually motivating you, and you just know that you'll have that much more work to do if your motivation is secondary as opposed to primary. So taking all this under consideration, the most important task is for you to identify what's going on within you. Understand the patterns of why you've been failing in the past, and let's try and break those patterns, build some healthier habits, and build a simpler life, a happier life. All the very best for the remainder of your 100 days and for your life going forward. This is Sandhya saying goodbye from Kerala. I'll see you next week.